In early 2026, the global economy is grappling with the second China Shock 2.0. Unlike the first wave in the early 2000s, which targeted low-end textiles and toys, this new industrial upheaval is driven by China's massive overcapacity in high-tech, green sectors, electric vehicles, EVs, lithium batteries, and solar panels. With a domestic property slump and weak internal demand, Beijing has doubled down on an export-led growth strategy, flooding global markets with state-subsidized, low-priced goods. As the US and EU respond with massive 2026 tariff walls, these 7 industrial towns find themselves on the front lines of a brutal trade war, where local factories are being wiped out by a combination of predatory pricing from abroad and rising input costs at home. 1. Lansing, Michigan, the EV fault line. The reality: Lansing, once the hopeful hub of the American electric vehicle transition, is facing an existential crisis in 2026. Despite federal subsidies, local plants are struggling to compete with a wave of Chinese EVs that are being transshipped through Mexico to bypass direct tariffs. The second China shock has hit Lansing's supply chain especially hard. Local component manufacturers cannot match the subscale pricing of Chinese state-backed rivals. By early 2026, Michigan has recorded a net loss of thousands of manufacturing jobs as automakers delay EV rollouts in the face of a glotted global market. The suburbs of Lansing are seeing the first signs of a green rust belt, where the very technology meant to save the town's industrial base is instead being used as a tool for its displacement by lower-cost overseas production. 2. Dalton, Georgia, the floor covering collapse. The reality: known as the carpet capital of the world, Dalton is being hollowed out by a surge in high-tech synthetic flooring from China. In 2026, Chinese manufacturers have pivoted from basic textiles to advanced, automated production of luxury vinyl tile and sustainable floor coverings, undercutting Dalton's legacy mills by as much as 40%. Because these products are categorized under new trade codes, they often evade the broader 2025 to 2026 tariffs. The result is a silent wiping out of local mid-sized firms that lack the capital to further automate. Dalton's industrial parks, once symbols of Southern manufacturing resilience, are seeing record vacancies as the town's primary industry faces a techno-industrial onslaught it was never prepared to fight, turning the local economy into a casualty of the brute force development strategy emerging from Beijing. 3. Hickory, North Carolina, the furniture fallout 2.0. The reality: Hickory was the poster child for the first China shock, and in 2026, history is repeating itself with a high-tech twist. While the town successfully pivoted to fiber optic cable and specialized furniture components, it is now being targeted by China's modernization drive. Chinese firms have integrated AI-driven design and subsidized logistics to flood the North American market with advanced smart home components that Hickory's remaining factories produce at a much higher cost. The 2026 trade wars have also seen China retaliate by cutting off exports of key chemicals used in furniture foam, creating a supply squeeze that is pricing local manufacturers out of existence. Hickory's manufacturing employment, which had shown signs of stabilizing, is once again in a freefall as the town's diverse industrial base is picked apart by targeted predatory pricing. 4. Youngstown, Ohio, the steel subsidy trap. The reality: in 2026, Youngstown is caught in a steel trap. While national security tariffs were intended to protect American steel, China's overproduction in 2025 has led to a global surplus that has driven prices to dumping levels in third-party markets like Brazil and Vietnam. This steel is then processed and sent to the U.S. as finished goods, which carry lower tariffs. For Youngstown, this means the local mills are facing a demand desert. Furthermore, the retaliatory 2026 trade wars have made the specialized iron ore and scrap metal needed for Youngstown's electric arc furnaces more expensive. The town's industrial revitalization, which was built on the promise of onshoring, is stalling as the global trade war increases the cost of doing business while decreasing the price of the final product, leaving local workers in a state of permanent economic anxiety. 5. Decatur, Illinois, the AG Tech displacement. The reality: Decatur is a hub for agricultural machinery and food processing, but in 2026, it is being hit by China's reorientation strategy. Beijing has heavily subsidized its own domestic AG tech giants, which are now exporting drones, autonomous tractors, and processing equipment to the global south, traditionally a major market for Decatur-based firms. As these export markets vanish, Decatur's heavy machinery plants have been forced to implement rotating layoffs. The trade war has also led to a collapse in soybean exports to China, hitting the local processing industry twice. Once on the input side, farmers having less to spend, and once on the output side, lower demand for processed goods. The second China shock. Here is a market share war that is slowly eroding Decatur's status as a global agricultural powerhouse. 6. Greenville, South Carolina, the Advanced Materials War. The reality. Greenville's 2026 industrial base is built on advanced composites and carbon fiber, sectors that China has designated as strategic emerging industries. Chinese state-owned enterprises have achieved unprecedented scale in carbon fiber production, dropping global prices so low that Greenville's high-margin specialized firms are losing their competitive edge. The 2026 trade war has complicated this by restricting Greenville's access to the rare earth elements required for advanced composite manufacturing. This choke point strategy by Beijing is designed to starve Western high-tech manufacturing of raw materials while flooding the market with cheap finished goods. Greenville, once the Silicon Valley of the East Coast, is watching its high-skilled jobs migrate to subsidized clusters in Shenzhen and Dongguan, marking a dark chapter in the techno-industrial upheaval. 7. Erie, Pennsylvania, the locomotive lock. The reality. Erie's storied history of building locomotives and heavy transport equipment is under siege in 2026. China's all-of-nations system has created a state shipbuilding and rail monopoly that offers zero-interest financing to international buyers, making it impossible for Erie's private manufacturers to compete on the global stage. Even within the U.S., the 2026 trade wars have led to a protectionist paradox. While tariffs protect the local market, the increased cost of imported specialized steel and electronics has raised the price of an Erie-built locomotive by 15%. With global rail orders shifting to Chinese subsidized Belt and Road projects, Erie's primary industrial employer is facing its steepest decline since the Great Recession. The town is becoming a textbook example of how a selective decoupling can leave old-line industrial hubs stranded between a high-cost domestic environment and a predatory global one. The 2026 second China shock is a war of productivity versus subsidy. As seen in Lansing and Erie, the U.S. strategy of using tariffs to rebuild the Rust Belt is being undermined by China's willingness to tolerate collapsing margins to secure global market dominance. This isn't just a trade dispute, it's a battle for the industrial heart of the next century. Towns that rely on high-value manufacturing are finding that onshoring is not a shield against a rival that views profitability as secondary to geopolitical resilience. Ultimately, the 2026 takeaway is that tariffs are a band-aid, not a cure.